Welcome back. Today we transform the typical Jayco wardrobe into something a lot more functional using some wire racking from Bunnings and these handy storage units from Aldi. Stay tuned and we'll walk through how it's done. Okay, this is the Flexi storage system you get from Bunnings. You find it in the wardrobe aisle. It's down in behind all the garage storage and all the cleaning products and stuff like that. It's a proprietary system, so you essentially buy 2 of these longer rails, and I'll put the full list in the description below, which are 762 millimeters long. And then you buy another 2 which are 300 millimeters long. Now I'll come around here and show you why you do that, because I was wondering myself when I had a look at the Jayco group posts. So what happens is the 300 mil unit can slot in here below the mid rail that sits in here, which locks the wardrobe in. I was looking at taking this out, but I'm going to try to keep it in there, and I'll do it how everyone's done. So you put the 300 mil unit in here, and then the longer 762 mil unit above, and that avoids the need to take out that mid rail and destroying the cabinetry inside. You then want to buy 8 of these 350 mil brackets. Now they're the double wall brackets which fit in the double slotted rails. You want 8 of these because you're going to have 4 shelves. You also buy 2 of the 1255 long wire mesh shelving. They're 335 millimeters deep, and obviously they're made to fit these brackets, and it all slots together and holds together when you assemble it. You chop these down, so the only real cutting that you need to do is to cut these wire racks down to fit the width of the camp trailer that you're using. So the Swans you do as 410 millimeters wide, and I'll find out what the Eagle uses, but obviously the Eagle's got a slightly narrower wardrobe unit there, so the shelves are going to be slightly narrower as well. It's also recommended you use the 10 mil 40 millimeter long screws, so I've got some of those. And while this is probably optional, I got the nose end covers which go on the end of the brackets here. So when it all goes together, you end up with these pointy bits hanging out. Now they do sit in the recess behind the door, so it's not a big issue, but I figured I'll keep it all nice and tidy by putting those nose end covers on as well. They're obviously optional extras. Look, I think it all came to, as others have said on the Facebook groups, just over $100. And to be honest, as a foolproof, very easy way of doing this, I think it's the way to go. Now before you get started, you want to remove these locking clips from the brackets and the stickers to all your components, because otherwise they get in the road when you're putting it together and it looks a little bit nasty when it's all assembled. Let's get cracking. Okay, I've laid the cover down on its side because it's much easier to screw that way and place all the components. As you can see, this is the base of the unit. So we've got our 2 wall brackets which go on either side of this mid brace. I'm going to pack them out using 3mm MDF off the angle. That way I can get them an equal distance from the side. It allows for the factory mounting screws which are obtruding out. That way I can have all the gaps nice and even all the way around. Otherwise, it's just a case of putting them in. You'll also notice these brackets have a slot on the end, on one end, which is obviously for some kind of system that they do, wall hanging system, just so it looks a little bit nicer. I've turned them around, so on the bottom, the slots are facing down, and on the top, slots are facing up. So when you look in through the middle of the unit to the mid rail, it's all nice and neat. Again, it's just a little detail item, which might be worth considering while you're bolting it all together. Okay, let's get cracking. Okay, next you want to cut down your wire shelf. I've measured out 410 mil and put a mark just past the vertical part of the wire rack, so I can just cut the horizontal bars basically all the way around. So once again, let's get cracking, cut up the 4 shelves and go from there. Now comes time to set up your shelves so that it will all work. I have, however, come across a slight issue. So using these Aldi bags, they're actually perfect depth to fit inside the cupboard. However, with this mid-rail sitting in here, I mean, you need to allow with this bottom shelf enough room that you can pull the case back out. So at the very least, it's going to be 1 slot down from this mid-rail, I think, just so you can get it in there, and then you know, you got to allow to get back over this bottom lip. Now, the problem comes with this mid-rail, it obviously decreases the depth. So when you put this case in, it actually fouls on the door closing. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to remove the mid-rail, because at the end of the day, we don't secure it when it's up. It's fairly stable anyway. And pull these rails down. That might be something that you want to consider if you're going to use these. If you're using other storage means, like the Kmart baskets, they're potentially a little bit shallower and they'll push right in. These cases will actually fit in sideways as well. But again, you can't really do it with shelves in there. They do fit, but they're very, very tight, and you've got to lift them up a fair way to bring them back down. So I think we're going to make a modification to the standard rule here. Remove this middle rail. Just for neatness, I'm going to drop these down so you don't have a big gap in there, and go from there. Okay, we're back. Taking out the mid rail, drop the mounting rails down, and it's all good to go again. Also, position the bottom shelf. Now, one thing I've discovered also, so this is a good thing about doing these videos, because I'm finding things out for everybody else. So with these tabs that I told you at the beginning to pull out, you can actually just clip them up. Leave them in there, just leave them clipped up like that. And then what you do is you put your shelf in, and then you simply just pop them down. Now what that does is that locks the shelf in. It's got a little bit of movement in, but that actually physically locks the shelf in onto the rails so that the whole lot doesn't fall out. And that is the beauty of this system. So when you fold it down to travel, all of this is locked in place. Okay, for the Aldi storage units, I've worked out it's best to locate them 8 of these slots apart. So count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I've just put a quick mark. Now it's a simple case of just grabbing the bracket by this slot, put it in, click it down. Do the same on the other side. Bracket. In. And then it's a case of just putting a shelf loosely in place. Now don't lock anything in, because what you need to do is lift these up, click these through. It's a bit hard to do with one hand. Basically like that. push them down, and then the same as the one down the bottom, lock them in place. And it's really as simple as that. There's been some discussion on whether the end of the shelf downturns or upturns, but as you can see, it's supposed to downturn so that these legs, the brackets, can lock through. One thing I also did was I put the covers on first, because it's hard to get them in once they're in. They can go on, and then the shelves can slot in over the top of them as well. Anyway, let's put the rest of the shelves in and see what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, well, the shelves are in. One thing I've also discovered, which is again useful for the people using these Aldi storage units, is that you really only need 1, 2, 3 shelves. So that will get 4 of these bags in. You can't really fit any more than that, to be honest. I'll put the fourth shelf in because I figured you could tuck some stuff over the top here. It's probably still a little bit tight, to be honest. There's a reasonable amount of room up in there. Just means you can put some other loose items in over the top of the top storage unit. So let's put them in and see how this all looks. The bottom one's a little bit tight, but it works. It fits in there pretty well. And then the rest of them are easy. They slide in. Again, you might be able to drop these down a little bit more, which I might look at doing. I don't know if you could pop them down maybe 1, just to make a little bit more room. But I figured once you've got stuff in there, you don't want it too tight on these bags, otherwise you'll just start wearing the top of the bags off because they'll probably balloon out slightly. Anyway, there's a much better way of storing your clothes neatly within a Jayco, Eagle or Swan or other camper trailer. Pull these out easily when you're camping, get your gear out, put them back in, and as opposed to using tubs or crates or anything like that, you don't have to, if you want to get to the bottom one, you don't have to pull all the other ones out to get to the contents of that case. The door shuts neatly, and it's ready to roll. It's a few little modifications obviously we've discovered along the way. Technically you only need 3 shelves. If you want to fit these Aldi canvas storage bags, really you need to take out that mid-rail through here. And to be honest, I know a lot of people say to use 40mm long screws to put the rear supports in. If you screw them in too far, like fairly tight, they will just protrude the back of the unit. So when I put my list up, I'm going to suggest 35mm screws. I just think that's probably a much safer length to use. I don't like using them that long. There's not that much load on these shelves anyway. I don't think they need to be quite that long. One other thing to note is you can push these over to store other narrow things down the side. So it might be a case of getting some other little sachets or something that will fit down the side of these cupboards, and that'll increase the storage quite a bit. Now, if you haven't seen these Aldi storage cases before, they're actually quite nifty. You can unzip them on the top, which I think is how most people would use them. They've just got a little light wire cage inside, so they're actually very, very light. Zip them all back up. You've got these viewing slots here, these transparent slots on one of each short and long side, but you can also zip down the front. So if you did have them in a different situation to this, where you can do them side on, you can actually stack all these up and then just unzip the front to access all your gear inside. So they're quite a flexible, lightweight little storage solution. If you are that way inclined, you can also collapse them, which is how you get them when you buy them from Aldi. For storage, you can collapse them flat and pack them away. So they really don't take up that much room at all, as opposed to the plastic tubs where they're always lying around. While you can stack them, they still take up that footprint. So they're quite a flexible storage option that works quite well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this DIY tutorial on how to get some extra storage out of your Jayco wardrobe unit. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Share it around. That's what it's for, so we can all learn something as we're going along on this journey. And most of all, get out there, have fun, and be safe. Thank you for watching.